Well, joining us now is political analyst Gbola Oba. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to have you join us.
All right, let's get your overview of the recently conducted governorship elections in Kogi and Bayelsa states. What do you make of INEC's conduct of the elections?
We must start by stating the fact that casting of votes is just the ostensible, the visible part of the democratic festival called electioneering. From the processes that produced the two candidates in the two major parties, we know we are in problem.
Really?
Indeed, the fact that Kogi and Bayelsa are having their gubernatorial elections done out of sync with the national electoral calendar is an indication that those two states, like some other states of the Federation, Edo, Ondo, Anambra, that those two states are indeed, the electoral temperament in those two states cannot be taken lightly. In view of this backdrop, can I now sit here as a Nigerian, patriotic Nigerian, and say that institutions of coercion, the police, the civil defense, the army in some respects, and the armed forces operatives in some respect, can I now say that they have done well? I say no. Even the Inspector General of Police a couple of days ago went to Lokoja
to sign the peace accord,
and he was tear gassed.
Exactly. With the INEC chairman.
With the INEC chairman. I am sitting there a bit sympathetic to the INEC chairman because he does not control any instrument of coercion, number one. Number two, this gentleman, without wanting to seem like I'm apologizing for him, this gentleman is constrained to function with the constitutional provision defining how elections should be conducted in Nigeria, our obviously obsolete and dated Electoral Act. We must remember that the Electoral Act with which these elections were conducted are actually the 2010 Electoral as amended.
Yeah.
And we know that given the temperament, the electoral temperaments of these states, and indeed the generality of Nigeria, because the last general election we just had was not the best advertisement of democracy.
All right, let's look at another side now. You were talking about security issues just now. The deployment of 66,000 security agencies, where 31,000 to Bayelsa and 35,000 to Kogi. It did not curb the violence from the reports we heard. Would you advocate that more security agencies be deployed sometimes for election purposes?
I am one Democrat and analyst who goes against the fashionable analytical trend when we hear analysts say our elections are militarized. Look, carrying money about in Nigeria is militarized. I go to, in less than 4 weeks, I've been in about 3 countries. 3 countries, UAE, Dubai, London, United Kingdom. And I never saw anybody, because they were taking cash or instruments, or financial instruments about, literally bearing, when you carry money in Nigeria. Don't you see how those who bear? So, and because politics is the biggest business in Nigeria now, I'm one who supports that we must find a methodology through which the the violence that defines it is curbed.
Right.
And I am thinking, sitting here today, apart from, with due respect, my president, in whom I'm gradually losing faith in him as a Democrat, apart from my president, the greatest culprits for me this morning are the institutions of coercion, especially the police. Because what happened in Kogi, the video footage we've seen coming, we are in the age of surveillance. We are in the age where people on the ground have been so empowered democratically to use gadgets, electronic gadgets, to record events.
Right.
What we've seen across areas in Kogi is not uplifting.
Before the election, the police had said that they had carried out a risk assessment of the state and that they were talking tough, that anybody found to have carried out any of these issues that we mentioned, where ballot box snatching, would not find themselves repeating these things again. What would you expect happening now, seeing that there were issues of violence? What do you expect on the part of the police moving forward now?
I want to believe, and this is being fair a bit to the place, that with this political class we have, and you know what, I am not here to be finger pointing at one party or the other. It's same of the shame. Sorry about my grandma and my sister. It's same of the shame. You know, I don't want it to be grammatically right, but to be honest with you, that is how I feel this morning. Neither of the two major parties are doing our democratic experience any good. Indeed, they are pulling back the hands of the clock. This does not in any way, shape, or form. So I'm sitting here now in the backdrop of what I know to be the desperation of the political class, members of the political class, thinking if I were to swap places with the police, with the IGP of police this morning, could I have done any better in Bayelsa or Kogi? When because of electioneering campaigns, people who know each other kill each other as though human beings are animals.
But something has to be done. We cannot continue like this.
We cannot continue like this, and that is why it has to start from the president. I just said that the greatest culprit for me this morning is the president, because the electoral amendment bill that he refused to sign as a result of the narcissistic and very, very unfortunate political scenario that prevailed during the denouement of the 8th Assembly, I am one who believes that it's about time the president signed that electoral bill into law, the amendment bill into law, because some measures in that revolutionary electoral bill would have addressed the resort to violence that politicians seem to be profiting for at this juncture.
On the electoral field. All right, Gbola Oba, thank you so much for your insight and time on the program this morning. Thank you. Right. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, when he spoke to journalists or the press after he cast his ballot, one word he used was that he was disappointed in the process of things, because election in his Otueke home place started almost about 3 hours behind schedule. Can you talk to us about this? How disappointed or how hopeful do you think, okay, we're still getting it right or something? What's your take on mind on this?
I was a matured youngster in 1979 and in 1983. I am a middle-aged man as we speak, and I want to tell you with a degree of historical conceit that the same logistical problems we were having in those days, 79 to 83,
Second Republic,
are still the logistical problems that we seem to be having now. The face of technology has improved tremendously. The face of logistical assets have improved tremendously, but our electoral management system has remained stunted and the same. INEC would have in its rule book that polling booths will open for 8 a.m. INEC officials will not be turning up by 9:30, 10 o'clock. That in itself is an incitement to violence. Because what people naturally think when such happens is that they want to steal our votes. And by the very nature of our temperament and the profound degree of functional illiteracy in our society, we sometimes, through seemingly innocuous occurrences like that, invite violence to the field of play. Because suspicion is rife. So I'm sitting there now, you've just asked me this question, and I'm looking at, from when I was a boy in Mushi, a 16-year-old boy in Mushi,
till now.
Till date.
Things haven't changed.
And so some have argued that perhaps the INEC is overwhelmed and should be unbundled.
INEC's problem as at this juncture for me is more pronounced in the area of the extant law that governs the conduct of elections. The Electoral Act 2010 as amended for 2011. That law, in every material particular, especially in the defined mechanism with which ballot results are reported, is totally obsolete. Totally. Totally. Look at some of the reports we had from Kogi yesterday. They would allow elections to hold in some places, but when it gets to the collation center at the wards, some elements, some criminal elements will just go there, fire some guns in the distance, and you know what?
Everybody takes off.
Until I see the effective juju that will repair bullets. Because even the babalawo that did the juju was somebody. They asked him, oh yeah, let's test it on you. No. Until I see an effective bullet repellent juju, I won't be an electoral officer, or I won't be a collation officer that would dare go and sit down. And for God's sake, I will not blame the person who did the runner too. This, you see, Mr. President came into office with a lot of good intentions. And one could see that he's making efforts to right some endemic wrongs in our society. If he fails to right the wrong that this extant electoral law speaks to, and other elections under his watch, till he comes to the end of his tenure, keeps going like this, it will be one of those factors that will tarnish his image. I can't sit here and not say that as a Nigerian, if you love this country and you love that man.
What do you think should change now when it comes to the conduct of the election based on the laws you're talking about, at least for within the confines of what is obtainable right now, and how INEC is going to collaborate with other agencies that conduct election? What do you think should change?
INEC's relationship is almost gradually from one election to the other, especially under the incumbent chairman of INEC,
Mahmoud Yakubu,
is going southward. You would notice that the civil society organizations like IAGA, like the Situation Room, are now becoming much more forceful, much more vociferous in condemning the parody of electoral, this thing that we call elections. And I won't blame them. And they are doing the right thing. Anybody who loves this country must speak aloud. But you know what? I'm sitting here thinking that the fundamental problem lies more between the pronounced partisanship that parties, and they are same of the shame. You know, when PDP was there, we used to lambaste them, we used to condemn them. If anybody wants to be fair and non-partisan, and I tell people, like, you know, let me make bold to confess that ideologically I'm APC. My housewife is an APC apparatchik in Lagos. But you know what? If I love this country and I still want my children to have a foothold in this country, I must speak to the truth.
All right.
This is not the best.
All right. Thank you very much, Gbola Oba, for your objectivity on this.
Collating the results yesterday in Kogi State, one of the collation officers or collating officers said that one of his officers was bribed with 50,000 naira, and you know he brought it as evidence. And the question has arisen as, when will we begin to de-emphasize monetizing our elections? Because there are some persons who believe because they do not have the war chest, and so they cannot even get into the system. And the issue also of vote buying and the likes. What would it take to de-emphasize monetizing our elections?
Until we solve the problem of endemic poverty, rabid poverty. The greatest poverty on the face of the earth is not the poverty of the pocket. It's the poverty of spirituality, emotionalism. I'm not saying the poverty of religion. We are rich in religion in Nigeria, but poor spiritually. Poverty of spirituality, emotional poverty, and to be very honest with you, practical, empirical poverty. And that is why a friend of mine who now is resident in Dubai, in those days he used to visit Dubai, forgot his phone in the aircraft, got to town and remembered that he couldn't find his phone, traced the phone back to the airport, and they told him to go to Lost and Found. When he got there, the police brought out all the phones in their car, and he was looking at state of the art, the latest phones. He said when he picked his phone, he then asked the policeman who was in charge of it, listen, all these phones are here, you don't pick any. And he said the guy dipped his hand in his pocket, brought out the latest phone of the major brand, I don't want to mention, and he said he then knew why. This is a country, or this is a city-state where you see the police using Ferrari as the police vehicle. My sister, when people are intellectually and emotionally poor, they are susceptible to all, and we unfortunately, because of the intellectual laziness of our middle class, including Gbola Oba, we have a system of governance that accentuates rent-seeking far and above innovativeness, creativity. Your green room is one of the most intellectually vibrant. Anytime I come here, the kind of people I meet and the kind of ideas and I wonder if we could be exchanging this kind of ideas in the green room of a TV station. Why is it that the quality of our governance is this poor? Because we see lack of intellectuality in what we do. This system that we have, this political system, would sustain political brigandage far and above creative and innovative leadership system. Because, come to think of it, today, just because I'm barely literate, if somebody muzzles me to become the local government chairman, and I'm using my words carefully, muzzles me, or muzzles me to become governor, all I have to do is know that from the treasury of my state, I can buy some policemen who will work my angle when there's re-election. I can buy some electoral officers who will work my angle, and I can get thugs into town. Let's be very honest with ourselves, it's not only the incumbent who does it. Everybody does it.
Well,
and that's why
we see a lot of these things, actually. But the point there is, as it is, Nigerians are some of the most traveled intellectual, even rich when it comes to the wherewithal, the resources of all kinds, whether it is financial resources, whether it is emotional resources, and all of that. Nigerians have all of this in abundance. We travel and we see these things in other countries. What is the difference between...
In your culture, and I know we are, in your culture, I know there must be a dictum that speaks to the fact that a rich man in the midst of many poor people, who is he?
He's also poor.
Look, the irony is that we are blowing good grammar here. We're speaking Queen's English. What does the larger percentage of our population speak to when it comes to functional literacy and indeed existential literacy and numeracy? We have now gotten to the level where a major company in Nigeria was advertising the fact that it employed amongst those who applied for driving job, heavy duty truck driving job, a PhD holder. Functional literacy. I am not talking about somebody who got a certificate. One of the recent things that made me very happy, although they went about it in a funny way, was about 5 days ago when the President of Nigeria and the Minister of Education of Nigeria went to the headquarters of PSC Xrays in London. I said, hallelujah, somebody ultimately realized that we need to empower our people with sustainable vocational skills to build our society. Look, in 2008, we had a major recession. From 2008 to 2018, the world went through a major recession. Average number of people who leave secondary schools and go to universities in England, 70%. Average number of people who leave secondary schools and go to universities in Germany, 30%. Average number of people who leave secondary schools and go into apprenticeship in Germany, 70%. In the UK, the reverse, quite worse. Germany survived the decade of recession more because skilled human beings at any time would always be needed. Certificates don't solve problems. Skilled human beings solve problems.
All right.
Gbola
And that's
Oba,
the way to go.
Thank you so much for your contribution on the show.